Hey, what's up dudes, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Dead by Daylight video. Today we're going to be talking about archive killers and whether they're actually going to become killers in the game, because I call them archive killers, but technically they're just characters we've seen in archive videos so far. So that really does beg the question, will these characters eventually be killers? Because they seem to be killers. I mean, they have the design of killers, they're monsters in some aspect. The brain would immediately go to, hey, that could be a killer in this game, so will they be? Well, I've compiled a little bit of information to hopefully give some insight into that question, but there definitely won't be an answer here. And it's unfortunate to say that, but you'll see why with all of the information I talk about. So let's go ahead and get into it. So archive killers, what am I talking about? Why does it justify a video? Well, since July, give or take, of last year, that was the first video I made talking about this topic, and that was because a Dracula-esque character was released in an archive video. The observer sees him, it looks like he's in this big castle, and it looks like the classic description of Dracula that's based on Vlad the Impaler. And that started a conversation. Nothing's came of it so far, and we'll get to that. But there was also a spider killer that was seen later on last year in another archive video, again to do with the observer. Again, another very well designed character, a bipedal monster, which seems to fit the Dead by Daylight killer design. It has to be bipedal so far. Demogorgon's bipedal, everybody's bipedal so far, so it fit that design even though it was a spider killer. These two characters really justify this video because they could be killers in this game. One is a classic take on Dracula, a classic killer, one of the first pop culture monsters, and then a giant spider. I mean, who's not afraid of giant spiders? I mean, come on, dude. But again, will these characters be killers in this game? It would make sense, right? Well, we actually have a killer that helps answer this question in the game playable already, and that is the Blight. So if we go back, way back to 2018, 2019, the very first tome, The Awakening, the Blight, Talbot Grimes, was actually teased in that tome. It was in, I want to say, August, or no, it was in September of whatever year it was, 2018, 2019, and then a year later, 11 months, give more than you take, we got the Blight, Talbot Grimes, in the game as an actual killer. Now this answers the question of whether archive killers can be in-game playable killers, but it also raises a problem. It answers the question saying yes, they can become killers in Dead by Daylight, but it raises the problem of, is this the only one? See, right now we're 1 for 1, we're batting 100 right now, because the killer was teased and we got him. But technically, if you go further into the data and getting the time span mapped out, it was about 11 months, again, give more than you take there, from the time that he was teased to the time that he was released. Now, if we go all the way back to Dracula, the Dracula killer that was teased in the archives, we can take at least my video, that could have, been a thing for a month or two before that. So my video was in July, near the end of July. So technically, if we were going to get that killer in the same time span, it would have been around August, give or take. I mean, take technically. But so if we go by that time span, then technically we wouldn't have this killer in the same time span, but who says it has to be locked to that time span? Who's to say they wouldn't save that killer for the anniversary chapter? Who's to say it won't be the next chapter? You can't really map it out yet because we're batting 100 right now, and that's the same when it comes to the spider. Will we see the spider in the same time span as we saw the Blight, but we won't see Dracula, this Dracula-esque killer, until after the spider? So it would be a lot longer than the time span that we currently have set with the Blight in Tome 1. And that's where the problem really lays. So far we have 3 killers that have been teased in the tomes. One has come and set the time span, and then the other 2, one hasn't fully reached that time span yet, it's actually probably getting close, and the other is months past it. So what's happening here? Well, if I had to make a good old-fashioned guess, I will say I do think these killers will eventually eventually come to Dead by Daylight, and the time span is probably just whenever the hell that they can map it out, because they've said in the past that a chapter in Dead by Daylight takes about 7 months, 7 to 8 months to actually make. So that's why the Blight would have came a year after, close to a year after, about 11 months, because they were starting work on him around the time that they actually teased him. They knew he was a character, they were already designing him, and 11 months later we got the chapter, probably because that's how the chapters fell from the release date of that tome. But the other two, again, we don't know the time span. We're not on a set time span, and it's weird. Technically, I do believe, I want to say technically, if we were going to get the Spider in the same time span that we got the Blight, the Spider would technically be the chapter we're getting right now, or the very next. So we're going to have to see when it comes to that, but I have a feeling the next chapter could possibly be licensed, and we'll talk about that later on. This is a really confusing question, and it's hard to answer or give an answer to, because we have data, but we only have one, section of data. Technically we're batting 100 right now, but if we look at it in a greater view, we're 1 for 3 technically. So it's a very difficult question. I think they designed the characters in these cutscenes and the tomes very specifically to be added into the game, and that's why I'm leaning on the side of they will come into the game the same as the Blight has, just on a different time span, and we'll be able to map that data out a little bit better in the future. That's where I'm leaning there. They're very well designed to be in the game, but I really want to know what you guys think. Do you think we'll see the Spider and not Dracula, or the Dracula and not Spider? I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say about this. Maybe you have some more data that I overlooked, and we could have a conversation about it. It's a really interesting question, and I really do wish this could be something that we got a little bit more info on from Behavior, because it's like, I get it, that kind of ruins the suspense of, oh, will this character ever come to the game? But then you have the people who were sitting here waiting on years for a character that was teased in a cutscene, the same way as another character who's in the game, but this character never comes into the game, and so people are just kind of left sitting on their hands. It's a weird thing with the game right now that not a lot of people really think about or talk about. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll see you dudes again later this week for another interesting video to do with licensed killers. At least it's an interesting video in my mind, so stay tuned for that. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. My name is Tooten. I've been your host, and I'll see you dudes next time. Peace out.